Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, a staggering 600 food-led businesses have closed in Ireland since the government reintroduced the 13% VAT rate for hospitality businesses. Adrian Cummins, the Chief Executive of the Restaurants Association of Ireland, has issued a stark warning that if the VAT rate does not return to 9% after next week's budget, a further 1,000 food-led businesses could close. Adrian joins us now to share his concerns. Adrian, while many restaurants are battling to keep their doors open, I know that you have had a battle of your own as you are receiving dialysis.
That's correct. I had to go on dialysis treatment nearly 12 months ago, where my kidney function rapidly declined over a short space of period. Ever since, I've been receiving treatment 3 days a week. Beacon Renal Hospital in Dublin, fantastic clinic, and the staff is there. Now, please God, I'll be awaiting a transplant over the next 12 to 18 months. And all going well, once you get your transplant and it's successful, then it changes your life totally. And you're able to operate as normal. But at the moment, I'm kind of restricted that I have to go into a hospital 3 days a week. But when you get a transplant, all of that ceases and you can get back to a normal quality of life.
Well, I wish you well with that. Now, I wanted to talk to you this morning about restaurants and what's happening within the sector. So remind us firstly about the contribution which restaurants make to the Irish economy each year.
Well, the restaurant industry is quite important in terms of the tourism infrastructure, the hospitality infrastructure of the country. So the one thing we always say is that every tourist that comes into the country, they have to eat. And it's important that the quality of food and the services they get that reflects on the experience that the tourist has when they come to Ireland. Or even when people go out, the domestic market, go out for a night out to celebrate whatever. Over the last 12 months, since the VAT rate increased from 9% to 13.5%, we've seen over 600 restaurants or food-led businesses, what we would describe as be it coffee shops, pubs that serve food, or standalone independent restaurants closed down. And that's quite alarming because we've never seen that level of closures, even back at the height of the recession in 2012. And the closures will continue unless the government fix the model. The business model is broken at the moment. And what I mean by that is there's demand out there, but at the moment there's no margin in the business to make a profit. So if you don't make a margin, you're not able to pay the tax man, you're not able to pay your bank overdraft or your loan, etc., etc. So you're going to get into serious financial difficulty. And there's only so much of a price point that people will pay. And we're at that level at the moment where it's probably the law of diminishing returns. If restaurants decide in their own case to increase prices even more, they'll see less customers coming in the doors. So it's a worrying time for our industry. And there's a lot at stake here because these businesses, there's a livelihood behind every business and every closure. And while we are at full employment and staff can move and get a new job somewhere else, there's a trail of destruction, financial destruction when the restaurant closes down. Suppliers get burnt. The business owners themselves, they'll probably have pumped in every cent that their own personal savings to set it up, and that's gone. And then the state loses out in terms of tax that may be due or redundancy or whatever it is. So every restaurant that closes down, the economic calculation is 1.4 million. We're gone past what the government have estimated the cost of the VAT rate to be reduced from 13.5% down to 9%. They estimate it's about 500 million. So if over 600 restaurants have closed down, well, then it's over 600 million already lost to the exchequer.
And Adrian, is the reduction in the VAT rate to 9% actually the silver bullet that will solve this problem?
It is the only show in town, and it is the silver bullet. And let me explain why. Some people are saying that, if you reduce your commercial rates or you reduce employers' PRSI. And I say to them, well, how much extra are you paying per month and your VAT increase from 9 to 13.5%? And then you look at how much is your PRSI contribution every month for your business, and you look at how much per month you're paying on commercial rates. And you won't even come within a NASA's roar of the overall that increase cost to the business. So when governments say, we're going to help employers by reducing PRSI, that's a smokescreen. That's a band-aid approach to a more serious matter that's going on at the moment. And it will not stop the closures. We can guarantee the government of that.
And of course, in recent weeks here in County Wexford, we've seen a number of restaurants close. But from your insights into the market, is the closure of restaurants happening more in cities or in rural towns?
It's everywhere, and it's not discriminating against a town or a city or a village. So let me just tell you what the landscape could look like over the next 12 to 18 months if the closures keep continuing. So you might have a small coffee shop in a village in Wexford. And that coffee shop might have 4 staff in it. But that's a place where people meet, have a coffee, have a conversation. But if that coffee shop closes down, where do they meet then? They're hardly going to meet at a local retail store getting an automatic coffee to go. They're not going to do that because people want to meet people and it's a social experience. And it's the same way restaurants or pub serving food. The cost of doing business now is prohibitive and there's no margin in it. And we want a landscape, and these are independent operators, they're family-run independents. Now, over the next 12 months, we will see multinationals see the opportunity to pick up leases on small shops or small coffee shops or small restaurants because the market will change. But do we want to have, like the United States, chains across our country where it's the same everywhere? And that's not what Ireland should be about. We did a lot over the last, since the first recession in 2009, when Irish people immigrated from hospitality, learned their skills and came back, set up businesses and brought the skill level back to Ireland. We've never had as good quality restaurants than we ever seen before. So that was all learned, and we're going to lose that because I think people will just throw in the towel and say, this is not for me, this is not a business that I can feed my family on because there's no margin in it at the end of the day.
In the news over the past few weeks has been the Press Up Group, which is Ireland's largest hospitality group. That has been taken over by Shane Capital, a UK-based investment firm, in a debt for equity swap that has left the co-founder, Paddy McKillen, with a stake of just 10%. What does that mean for those particular restaurants?
The founders of the Press Up Group were pioneers in what they did. They were young entrepreneurs and they set up a huge business. I think last count I had was about 64, let's call it coffee shops, restaurants, pubs, and that excluded their hotel operation out of that. So, and the fit out was exceptional, et cetera. And obviously now they're being restructured financially. And, you know, when somebody comes in to restructure, usually you're going to see closures. And that's unfortunate because what we're trying to do here is save these businesses. And obviously they'll go through restructuring and please God they'll come out the other end of it. But there's other businesses out there and they've tried to go through restructuring and they've actually said, no, we can't go through it. It's not viable for us. And they effectively closed down. So we've seen two of the Dylan group where he shut 2 of his 3 restaurants there maybe 3 weeks ago. And you're going to see more and more of that, unfortunately, over the next number of weeks. But the lifeline is, and a lot of these business owners are waiting for the announcement on Tuesday, and they're waiting to see, will the VAT rate come down, which will give them a fighting chance? And if it doesn't come down, then they say, hold on here, why are we bothering? Let's just pull plant and close down.
And apart from the VAT rate, of course, I'm sure your members are very concerned as well about the proposed increases in the minimum wage and the auto-enrolment pensions being introduced from sometime next year.
Yes, they are. They're very concerned about it. But so the most important asset in our organisations and our businesses is our team and our employees. And unfortunately, we're in a cost of living crisis for housing. So rent has gone through the roof, and hence employers have to pay higher wages to retain staff so they can live locally. And, we don't begrudge our staff paying them properly, but a minimum wage increase has a knock-on effect, because what happens then is that there's a percentage increase of inflation, wage inflation. So, for example, last time it was a 12.4% increase in the minimum wage. As Nightfallers Day, everybody will look for a 12.4% increase in their wages, because the government said we're increasing the minimum wage by 12.4%. There's only so much a business can pay in terms of payroll. And there's a rule of thumb for your listeners that are working in, they'll understand this. At the moment, a normal hospitality, food-led businesses should have a wage percentage of turnover about 33%. That's a rule of thumb. But if you go higher than 33%, you're cutting from the bottom line. But what we're finding is now that the wage percentage is up near 40%. So there's no margin whatsoever. So then so another wage inflation will eat into more margin, which means it puts the pressure on the business. And we're expecting that the government will increase the minimum wage next week. So that's another hammer blow for us, on top of all the other government policies that they brought in, all in one go. And then when they brought it all in, they decided to do a report. And what does the report from the Department of Enterprise say? It says, disproportionately, hospitality and retail were the most affected due to government policy around cost of business. Instead of doing the report before they made the decision, they did the report after the decision. So I think that quite a lot of people are quite annoyed over that. And it has to be in the future, in terms of it needs to be looked at in terms of a stress test, these policies. And thankfully the government has decided to have what's called an SME stress test and see whether it's viable to bring in these policies. Now, let's see what happens next Tuesday in terms of the minimum wage.
Their members have been struggling as well with staff recruitment for their restaurants. So as a result of that, many of them have had to reduce the number of trading days per week and also trading hours. How is that today? Is it resolved, or is it still a major challenge?
It's still a major challenge, and businesses have changed their business model to, instead of a 7-day operation, to a 5-day operation. But I guarantee you this, into the future, you won't find an eatery or any place to serve food on a bank holiday Monday in the future. And what does that mean? You'll have tourists in this country, and the southeast is a big tourism destination for the domestic market and for the international market. They'll be wandering around streets on a Monday of a bank holiday trying to find somewhere to eat. Now, the gap will be filled by hotels where they're staying, but that's not the quality experience where tourists want to, they want to see the country and experience the country, and not, they use a hotel as an accommodation base, but might want to go out for coffees and lunches and dinners outside in the localities. But that's what's happening at the moment. Mondays and Tuesdays are nearly, people take it off, but because of bank holidays and double pay on a bank holiday, you won't see businesses open for that because it's too costly.
Adrian, I'm looking for a prediction now. If, for instance, the government does not reduce the VAT rate to 9% for the hospitality sector and there is an increase in the minimum wage, how many restaurants do you expect will close over the next 12 months?
I would expect another 1,000 restaurants will close. And I'm not trying to be scaremongering here, but we know from the evidence already that that's what's going to happen. And that's the trend, because we've seen the trend increase on a daily basis from 1 a day to 2 a day to 3 a day. Like last week we had 5. So, the numbers are going in the wrong direction for our industry in terms of closures. And all eyes is now on the budget on Tuesday to hear what the Minister of Finance and the government is going to do for our industry. And if business owners don't hear a reduction in VAT rate for food businesses, well, then they'll be thrown in the towel before they start getting themselves into more deeper debt.
Finally, Adrian, if there are any restaurant owners listening to this morning's programme that are concerned about the future of their business, what advice have you got for them?
Well, pick up the phone and ring your local government, TD or minister, and explain to them how tough it is in business, and explain to them in what they're facing in terms of their own viability, because that's the message that has to be got to government in terms of the facts and the figures from the local business to the local public representative. And that message is getting through. The backbenchers are hearing it left, right and centre. We have another number of days to go before the budget, and we will be lobbying right up until the 11th hour on it.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Adrian Cummins, the Chief Executive of the Restaurants Association of Ireland, and we really hope that the government will support these businesses in this extremely challenging environment.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.